Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Art of MMA. I'm Mike Ginn, that's professional kickboxer, the mechanic, Brandon Catino. Back in action again another week. Of course, we're talking UFC London. We're going to have some fun stuff at the end of the show. We're going to kick it a little bit about some cross-promotion dream matchups that Brandon and I would like to see. But first, go ahead and head over to FightersFirst.shop. Get the collection, support the fighters, let our apparel be a part of your story. Of course, you see Brandon and I both rocking the Art of MMA shirt. Of course, we got the Kings of MMA to support Art of MMA as well. The Mechanic Collection, Bombs and Drama, all that great stuff, doing great. Brandon, how you feeling today, buddy?
Man, feeling good, man. It's good to be back talking some of my mind with you.
Absolutely. I do want to start off this show sending a shout out to Kickboxing. You guys recorded your last show on Monday, released yesterday on Tuesday. It's been a good run. Hopefully we can get you guys back in the studio at some point in the future, maybe for a special or something. We'll keep pushing Tim to kind of do it, but Tim is doing some great things. So we're supporting Tim. Shout out to Tim Wheaton. And he's always going to be a friend of the network. So do appreciate all the time you guys have spent covering kickboxing. Not a lot of guys do it. A lot of people do it in the sport. So it's definitely great to see. So I guess it's goodbye for now. I'm going to keep pushing for these guys to get back in there and do something. But yeah. Brandon, we got a lot going on from UFC London. A small card with some big ramifications as far as like what's next for a lot of these fighters. We'll start off right at the top. Tom Aspinall, returning from injury, came out against a very tough Marcin Tybura and just finished him in the first round. Big performance from Tom Aspinall. I'll start off by asking what you thought of the fight and then what you think of the call-outs after the fight.
Yeah, man, Tom Aspinall came back, did his thing, man. He made it look easy. You know what I'm saying? Getting his game to out there in the first round that's not easy work, but he made it look easy. And like you said, he returned to the scene of the crime last year, where it is that he got hurt against Curtis Blades. And man, did he show out like he said he was going to. And yeah, man, like I'm cool with the call outs. Like he played it right. He said, hey, I'm gonna go over to France, fight the winner of that main event with Cyril Gane and them, and then after he beats them, then that's when he's gonna go for the title shot.
Yeah, I thought the call out was perfect because we've talked about Tom Aspinall as a potential challenger for a while now, and then he got hurt. You talk about Tybura. I mean, Tybura, other than Volkov, he's run through everybody that they've put in front of him, including another up-and-comer like Romanov. So, he's been delivering for a while, and Tybura's even beat Spivak, So he's definitely a very tough person, though he is getting a little up there in age. Heavyweights seem to never age, but he's 37 now. And Tom Aspinall, now 13-3. He had that loss to Curtis Blades because of the injury. He got hurt right in the first round. Can't blame Blades for that, but it happens. His other losses are back like when he was still kind of getting started and kind of like early in his career when he was in Bama, so which is a UK promotion for anybody that doesn't know. He's 30 years old, but for a heavyweight, like I said, they don't age. That's kind of young for a heavyweight, really. Yep. And he's a big guy, 6'5", walking around at least probably like around 275, cutting to like probably 258. I think it was his last fight. Mm-hmm. He's a good matchup for John Jones, I think, especially because he is athletic and he is somebody that can get around the cage. I see him fight and I see his hands. I think his hands are top notch in the heavyweight division. There's the lawn people we were talking about. Inside joke between Brandon and I. Both of us have people doing lawn stuff outside during the day. But I would wonder if Aspinall could hold up to the wrestling of John Jones, kind of when Cyril Gane couldn't really hold up to it either. I think him and Cyril Gane versus Spivak, I think the winner of that versus Aspinall makes a lot of sense. And I also think that's a good matchup for all those fighters. They all match up pretty well. So that would be a fun play out for all of it. The heavyweight division isn't as exciting as it was even a few years ago. Jones has been waiting for Stipe. Looks like they're now going MSG in November. Coincidentally, Colby Covington this week asked to get Edwards at that same card, so that might be a pretty stacked card if that's what we get. But yeah, the heavyweight division is pretty much the same names we've been hearing for years, and nobody's really moving up and down. So that's pretty much what's next. As far as Tybura, He's always just going to be that guy that you need a tough challenger. This was probably his chance to kind of break through and become a challenger, and he didn't do it. He got finished quickly. So, who would you like to see Tybura fight? Like any of those rising heavyweights, you think he'd be a good like matchup for?
I mean, he can fight Curtis Blades. You know, they're both coming off losses, so that's usually how they try to match people up. You know, but yeah, like I think that could be a good matchup with for him.
Yeah, somebody like that would definitely be fun. I think another up and comer would probably be something like for him to match up, see how they match up with him. But yeah, that's the main event. Looks like it's going to be Tom Aspinall versus the winner of Gane versus Spivak. I think Dana's on board with it too. I think I heard him say yesterday. So yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, right? So over in the co-main event, Stoliarenko finished Molly McCann quick, armbar in the first round. She was better on the feet. She was better on the ground. We talked about this with Molly McCann before. She has no ground game, none whatsoever. She's pretty much, if she catches you, she makes a highlight knockout. Otherwise, you know, it is what it is. I think two things, Brandon, when I think of Molly McCann. One, I think that she needs to get out of London. All her fights seem to be in London. And I don't know if that makes you complacent, but it doesn't really, I don't know. You need to get out, train with different partners, go travel, like do different things. I know she was going with Patty across the world at one point, but they were just kind of on a tour. They weren't really training at different gyms in San Diego and Las Vegas and all those places they were going. In fact, that was when we were getting Patty the Fatty because Patty was trying foods in every place he was going. And for Stoliarenko's part, nobody really was talking about her going in this fight, even though she was favored. And she came out and showed out and made herself an instant contender in that flyweight division. What did you think of this fight?
Yeah, man. You know, Stoliarenko looked good, man. You know, this is her first time fighting at 125. I think she finally found the right division for her because when she first came into the UFC, she fought at 145 and she fought at 135. But I think 125 is the division for her. I mean, we already know that knew that she was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So if the fight goes down to the ground, you know, it's gonna be her world. But standing up, though, I mean, she had the reach, she had the height, and she used it, man. She had a good jab. She basically bullied Molly like up against the cage, and that's when you know she went for the takedown and did her thing. But yeah, like I mean, to me, I feel like this fight is really about Julia doing her thing and her maybe being a future contender at 125 over here.
Yeah, the new division definitely gave her new life, right? Because she struggled. You know, Santos, Avila, Alexa Davis, Chelsea Chandler, her last fight, like she struggled. And all of a sudden she comes down and yeah, it's Molly McCann, who's basically, you know, no disrespect to Molly, but she does one thing and she does it well. But if you avoid a lot of her striking, then you're pretty much a favorite against her. And, you know, you look back at that Chelsea Chandler fight, it was the opposite, right? You know, she got knocked out against Chelsea. She goes against Molly and she gets the armbar quick. Night and day performances. She was out of action almost a year. So, you know, obviously getting down into the different weight class and getting comfortable. She looked great. She looked great. You know, short experience. We didn't see her in the cage a long time, right? We didn't see her 3 rounds. We just saw the 1 round. But she did what she was supposed to do and she came out and looked great. So I think she's going to get a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of people down at the bottom of those UFC flyweight rankings, a lot of young killers. You have the, you know, Jazz the Vicious, the Tracy Cortez, the KGB Lee, the Casey O'Neill, Amanda Ribas. Like all those are in the bottom 5 of the top 15 for the UFC flyweights, and all those will be a great matchup. I'm pretty sure Jazz the Vicious and Tracy Cortez are matched up. So, you know, you got some other people sitting there, especially some veterans like KGB Lee, Casey O'Neill, Amanda Ribas. All those will be a good challenge to see how she adjusts to that new weight class. So. And then for Molly, what's next for her, man? Like she has to go start training on that ground game.
Yeah, man. You know, I mean, something she has to work on, and also too, man. Like say, maybe just fight somebody back, you know, back in the rankings, or maybe people, you know, who aren't even ranked yet for her.
Yeah, I mean, she ran through Kim, Carolina, Goldie, all KO, like decision and KOs, especially the highlight one against Carolina with the spinning back elbow, and then all of a sudden, Blanchfield submitted her, made it look easy, first round. And then Stoliarenko, you know, first round submission. So I think if you look at her history, she struggled with people that do good on the ground. Talia Santos is another one. You know, Jillian Robertson tapped her out, you know, so these ground people. So, you know, she has to work on that ground game, at least defense, right? Like we always say this, you don't have to be a great wrestler. You don't have to be a great jiu-jitsu. You have to be great at defense. So you don't get put in those positions. And I think that's what Molly needs to work on. Also on the card, Nathaniel Wood looked great against Andre Fili. Unanimous decision. Any thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, man, that was a good fight, man. They went back and forth. Nathaniel Wood, man, was trying to finish that fight in the first round. Didn't happen, man. But then Fili came back, took his back, had him hurt in the second round. But yeah, man, that to me, that was a fight of the night.
Well, not technically.
I know.
But it was a really good fight. As we get down, I'll tell you which was fight of the night. Another performance bonus, though. Paul Craig making his debut at middleweight looked fantastic against Andre Munoz. Andre's known for his jiu-jitsu too, so that was definitely a grappling battle that we knew was going to happen. Paul Craig got on top of him, started raining down elbows, and got the TKO. Paul Craig, for his part, said he weighed more on fight night than he did against Johnny Walker, which is always crazy when you talk about the weight cuts in MMA. What you think about his debut at a middleweight?
Yeah, man, I was all for it, man. I loved it, man. Paul Craig looked good. I'm a big fan of Paul Craig, and Paul Craig versus Bo Nickel. I'm ready for it. Let's do it. MSG, why not?
That would be fun. I'm kind of sad he went to middleweight, though, because I was looking for it before Jamal Hill got hurt. Maybe Paul Craig and Jamal Hill rematching because, Paul Craig famously dislocated his elbow when they fought. But we will not see that fight. It looks like he's comfortable at middleweight making the cut, so might be some new life in that middleweight division, which we need because, it's none of those divisions, the top five pretty much fighting each other. So that'll be fun. Ferris, man, Zion got the win against Jai Herbert, unanimous decision. At times, he made it look easy. Is Jai Herbert at this point just a body they throw in whenever they go to Europe?
I mean, he has a following. He has a calling, but it's like he's somebody like Molly. If you got the fan base out there, and people are a fan of yours, why not put you out there?
Yeah, you're putting asses in seats, right? That's what the point is. Now moving to 13-0. People don't talk about him, but Lerone Murphy, another great performance, dominant, even 30-26 on a couple scorecards against Culibao. Murphy's 32 years old now, and for a featherweight, that is kind of up there compared to like the heavyweight. And he's never really gotten a chance at a top contender. The toughest guy he's fought so far was Amir Khani. Other people are a lot of people you've probably never even heard of. He's only been in the UFC now for 4 years. Is it time to start giving him more top-level featherweight competition?
Yeah, why not? I'm sure he wants to step up. He wants to get ranked and everything like that. But yeah, like I said, man, the man's been on a tear. He's looking good. He's undefeated. So it's time. It's time for the next step.
We always talk about people like Edson Barboza, Alex Caceres, and all these guys kind of as gatekeepers now. I think you have to give Murphy one of these guys that people know. This guy can't just keep fighting quietly in London. Like, you have to give this guy a platform. He's great on the mic, first of all. If you ever have heard Murphy talk, he's very personable. He's very fun to watch in the cage, very dominant, as you saw. I would love to see him against Bryce Mitchell personally. But also, there's some veterans on there not doing anything right now. I don't think Calvin Kattar has anything lined up. I don't think Giga has anything lined up. There's some of these guys at featherweight that want to be active and aren't, or are coming off injuries. And here you have a 13-year-old. He looks like a 13-year-old sometimes. He's so young looking. But 13-0 fighter, throw him into the pool. See if he swims. You're giving people, like Hamza Shamaev and Bo Nickel and all these other fighters a chance at less records than this guy has. So give him a chance. Let him. He's already proved in the UFC that he can win. So I'm definitely looking forward to more from Lerone Murphy. Daniel Marcos with a close split decision over Davey Grant. I won't talk too much about that fight, but good decision, bad decision. What do you think?
I think I was kind of leaning towards Davey Grant, but
Davey's your guy, so you're selfish about that. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it was a decent decision, but it could have gone either way. And then what was fight of the night? Johnny Parsons coming back from injury. Of course, we saw him against Solomon Renfro in Dana White's Contender Series, and we were wondering what happened. We didn't see him anywhere. He had a fight scheduled. It got canceled. came back. Danny Roberts was rocking him early, and Parsons came out and knocked him out in the second round. Big comeback win. What do you think of Johnny Parsons?
I mean,
he has potential, but he's just so sloppy at times.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel sometimes I feel like he might be too small for the weight class, like height wise, that is. But
yeah, you're not wrong, because I mean Solomon's not a tall dude, and they were pretty much on the same level.
Yeah.
Solomon's though just a lot more filled out. And of course, we've already talked about Solomon possibly going around 155. You're talking about that, so yeah, Johnny Parsons, his striking is top notch. But I feel like he leads with his chin sometimes. And when you do that, you live by the sword, die by the sword. So far he's been winning. Big win against Danny Roberts, tough fighter. So that's definitely going to move him around. Joel Alvarez got the win over Dakaisi, your favorite, the Darce choke. Big win there. You're talking about Parkin getting the win over Pogues with a unanimous decision, 30-27, made it look easy. Murdoch got the win over a very tough Brian Barberina, and he made it look easy, 30-27. Caitlin Vieira got the win over Pani Kianzad, close fight, 29-28 on all three scorecards. Chris Duncan with the win against Ashimoff. Brazel with the win over against Bannon. And then starting things off, it was Philo with the submission, got the arm triangle choke over Daniel Perez in the first round. Any of those other fights kind of stand out to you as something highlights?
I mean, they were all good. I mean, of course, like I said, I think that was a good one for Caitlin Vieira. To get back,
she needed to bounce back.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was a good fight. And saying, and who she went up against Kiazad, man, she is a tough out.
Most definitely. Like I honestly was picking against her in that fight. So it's definitely a big win for her in that bantamweight division, which is kind of up in the air right now with, Amanda retiring and so many people fighting for another chance and shot. So she needed that win. She came out and she got it. That puts her now at number 4. Buena Silva jumped all the way up to number 3, taking Holly's spot. Of course, Pena and Pennington 1-2, probably fighting for the vacant title, which they haven't yet officially announced yet. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see Buena Silva jump in there for that fight, just because she made so much noise the way she finished Holly a couple weeks ago. Of course, we didn't get a chance to talk about that last week, but, big win for Buena Silva that put her in the rankings. So a lot going on in the UFC. I love these cards like London and some of these other fight night cards, because sometimes they actually are more exciting than some of the long pay-per-view cards that we get drawn into. These fight cards tend to go by a lot faster and tend to be a lot more fun and exciting sometimes. So, of course, they all lead up to UFC 191 next weekend. Poirier and Gaethje going at it again for the BMF title, as well as some other stuff. Also this weekend, just to let you know, in case you haven't heard, the Bellator Rising card, there is a substitution in the Grand Prix in the main event. AJ McKee is out with an injury, so it's going to be Patricky Pitbull going against D'Souza. Brandon, there's a lot of changes already in that Grand Prix. They already put Patricio Pitbull in the Grand Prix, which is crazy because he just went down to 135 and now he's going to bounce all the way back to 155, but he's the champ at 145. I'm just like, but that kind of segues into what I want to talk about next, Brandon. Just a little fun topic to kind of finish off the show today. We always talk about all these dream matchups, right? We'd love to see this champion versus that champion. How would they match up? Especially when you start talking about Bellator and PFL. We talk about it a lot when Patricio was kind of running through the featherweight division, how he would match up with like a Max Holloway or Alexander Volkanovski. We talk about Cyborg and all the different matchups she could have since she's left the UFC. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Male or female, doesn't really matter. Outside of some of the champions, who would be some fun matchups you'd love to see if they could go cross promotion and make it happen?
I mean, well, there's one person, he just became a free agent, but we mostly know him as being in Bellator, but that would be Michael Venom Page versus Stephen Thompson. I'd be down for that fight.
Yeah, we might actually get that. Yeah,
or one of those guys versus Raymond Daniels, who's over and won championship. Just basically like karate fighters just fighting other karate fighters. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, of course, Stephen Thompson's getting ready to fight Michael Pereira, which is a whole another difficult situation. Like you talk about potential versus a veteran like Stephen Thompson, different styles. That's going to be a fun matchup. But that fight actually really was one on top of my list. If you had a female fight you'd like to see across promotions, who would it be?
Female, man, really, probably it would be.
Don't steal my fight.
You know me, man. Probably right now, like I probably would like to see homegirl Tracy Cortez. Most likely, I probably would like to see her versus my girl Deanna Bennett at 125.
That'd be a really fun fight. A couple fights that pop up to me right off the bat. You know, we talked about it when they were champion, and we never obviously got it because AJ re-signed with Bellator. But AJ McKee versus Max Holloway, that fight is something I would die to see. Like, that is such a great matchup because they're both similar styles, similar size, and I just see that as one of Max's 5-round wars, like with Cater and stuff like that they've done. Yara Rodriguez and stuff like that. Man, I think Max versus AJ, I think that would be must-see TV. And from the female point of view, you know, you talk about their boxing history and two of the best women's boxers of all time. Holly Holm versus Clarissa Shields in a cage. I think that would be a really fun fight. I think, you know, we always talk about Cyborg versus Kayla, but Holly versus Clarissa brings a lot to the table. It brings a whole fan base from boxing. It brings a whole fan base from their time in the MMA now. Of course, Holly, much longer MMA. Clarissa, only a few fights. There's talk about her getting back in there early next year or the end of this year. So we'll see what PFL does with her. Of course, we went the whole year without even seeing Kayla, so I'm not sure what PFL is doing outside of their seasons. They're talking about putting together a big pay-per-view to start the year. Of course, a lot of that has to do with Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury getting it done in October, and if they can get Francis back in time for an early pay-per-view early in 24 like he's planning. So that depends on the damage he takes in that Tyson Fury fight. But I'll also throw a couple more names out there for you, Brandon. I would love to see Patricio Pitbull against any UFC featherweight, right? Obviously the champion, but you talk about that featherweight division in Bellator, Adam Borks, Jeremy Kennedy, Aaron Pico, AJ McKee, if he's in the featherweight or lightweight, whatever. Veterans like Pedro Carvalho and Mads Burnell. People sleep on that Bellator featherweight division. That's a stacked division. And then you start talking about, you know, Ilya Topuria and Josh Emmett and some of these featherweights in the UFC. We, you know, when we had that debate on Battleground, I think last year or the year before, it's been so long now, where we were talking about the best divisions. Remember that? And you said the featherweight, and I was kind of sticking to the bantamweight. But now I got to agree with you. I think the featherweights across the board from PFL, you know, Bubba Jenkins, Chris Wade, all those guys, Magomedov, what's his name? Khabib's guy. The one that was out last year and back this year. That one title.
From the PFL?
Yeah. Kabalev. Kabalev. Like, there's another guy at featherweight who's undefeated, run through everybody. You talk about a Bubba Jenkins, like I just mentioned, who's having one of the best seasons of his career. And that's not even to mention, like, defending champion like Brendan Loughnane and some of these other guys. The featherweight division is so stacked across all the promotions. And I'll even go further because, you know, me and Alex cover Loose Fight League a lot. Their featherweight division is stacked. And you're seeing a lot of those guys starting to come to the UFC. If you had to pick two featherweights to go at it, who would you pick?
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I was thinking about two lightweights.
Go ahead. Tell me the lightweights.
Two lightweights, another fight I was thinking, like we just talked about my guy AJ McKee, but I would like to see AJ McKee versus Charles Oliveira. I think that would be a good fight as well. You know,
that'd be a matchup of styles. See if Charles could grab him. You know, Charles likes to prove he can punch until he gets punched.
I mean, there's that losses too. I mean, AJ McKee is no slouch on the ground as well. So that's why I think it would be real good to see, you know, how that would go. But featherweight wise, I mean, the other one was like, honestly, like I know we were talking about like non-champions, but I really do want to see champion versus champion. I want to see the Volk and Pitbull fight. I want to see how they match up.
You know, one matchup I want to see that would be fun. It would just be real fun talking about big guys and stuff. Renan Ferreira from PFL against Bam Bam Tua Taivasa. Like, those are the matchups that, like, we don't get to see because of promotions in MMA. Like, boxing, yeah, you can have one promoter working for one TV network, but those deals can be made if the money is right? Like, if the money is right in boxing, it doesn't matter who you work for. You're looking at Spence and Crawford getting ready to fight. Like, those two fighters both wanted to make it happen. And they made it happen despite being on different networks, despite being in different promotions. Crawford, of course, left Bob Arum, which opened up a lot of doors. You know, he could fight who he wants. But in boxing, if there's enough money on the table, these fights happen. In MMA, if there's enough money on the table, the fights still don't happen. You might see crossover with boxing. You're not going to see it with other MMA promotions. Of course, Bellator works with Rizin, which we're going to see this weekend. But that's more international. That's not something like Rizin's not doing shows on U.S. soil on a regular basis. I think they've done 2 in their entire history. And I might even be wrong. It might just be 1. I know they did 1 in LA one time, but I'm not really sure. We hear Kayla and Cyborg talk so much about possibly fighting each other, but those promotions and networks have to all get together, and they're not doing it. Of course, PFL might just buy Bellator, and that's all a moot point. Then we might get some of these dream matchups we're talking about. But for now, I guess we got to settle for boxing versus MMA to get what we want. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Who would be some really great dream matchups that aren't champions? Like I said, it's easy to say. I'd love to see John Jones versus Ryan Bader, or, you know, whatever, world champion versus world champion. That's easy to say. Everybody wants to see that. But you can't count on Tapology, because I looked at Tapology before the show, and out of the world rankings in the top 50 fighters, they were all UFC. And I'm like, that's not possible. You have people getting ranked in the featherweight division like Damon Jackson over the current champion, Patricio Pitbull. So people are always going to weight the UFC higher than other promotions, but real fight fans know that's not always the case. And right now today, you see free agents, Shane Burgos and a number of others going to PFL. The field is leveling a little bit. The top fighters are absolutely still in the UFC. But the field is catching up. The field is definitely catching up. As Brandon and I talk about it, Sergio used to say it all the time. God bless him. You know, there's fights outside of the UFC. So. Mm-hmm. Brandon, before we get out of here, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, man. Just hey, everybody, enjoy the fights this weekend. You know, you got MMA, you got boxing. You got more MMA after, because you got the UFC, you got the boxing fight, and then of course you got Bellator and Rizin. So is
Bellator Rizin Friday into Saturday overnight, or is it Saturday into Sunday?
Saturday to Sunday.
Okay, because it's listed on the 29th, but I wasn't sure the way they do their schedule because they're in Japan. All right,
so it's Saturday here, Sunday there.
And of course, Spence Crawford this weekend, if you're a boxing fan. I mean, that's what everybody's going to be watching. Like, look, I'm all about Poirier and Gaethje, but I feel like it's going to go just like the last one went, and Poirier is going to finish him probably even faster this time. But, you know, that's why they have the fights. Anything can happen. Rock'em Sock'em Robots this weekend. So make sure you tune into that. Of course, head over to FightersFirst.shop. Get the Mechanic Collection. Get the Bombs and Drama Collection. Of course, we're doing a lot of great stuff. Just released a new Mr. Wonderful shirt as well. Alex Soto's Fight Like a Mexican. No, that is not insulting. That's something very near and dear to Mexicans' hearts. You know, that means stand in the box, never back up. Like, basically, you put two people in, like bare knuckle, right? You put them in the middle, and they don't back up until somebody falls. Fight Like a Mexican is actually a very endearing thing, not offensive like somebody said to me one day. And that was their idea, not mine. So I will say one last thing about the shop real quick, if Brandon will bear with me. We have been having some shipping issues to Mexico. It's kind of hard to track things outside of Mexico City and some of the other major cities in the country of Mexico. So please allow an extra couple weeks with any shipping to Mexico to make sure it arrives on time. If it doesn't, reach out to me. I'll be happy to take care of that. But that's just the business side of things. Everywhere else in the world gets their packages just fine. So FightersFirst.shop. You can check all the branded merchandise running around New Jersey right now. Everybody wearing a Bombs and Drama shirt. So check all that out. For the mechanic, Brandon Catino, I'm Mike Ginn. This is Art of MMA, and we're out.